Okay, welcome back. We're on page 261 talking about nested if statements. And I'm showing you how you can take something that looks complex and reduce it down into something that's a lot simpler. Before we even get started, I'm going to do a little trick. Have you noticed that whenever I make any change to the document whatsoever, you know, like hello, my numbers change because, you know, we told them random. Well, I want to tell it to shut up. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to grab these guys. Now remember, these are actually formulas, okay? And there's a way you can tell a formula to stop formulating. Basically, I just want to convert this to a value. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to say copy. And then right on top of it, without, you know, changing the selection at all, I'm going to do a right click. And one of the pastes is a paste value. Means these are no longer formulas. When I clicked here, it used to say, you know, ran between. Now it doesn't do that. Now I can make changes to my document like this, and the numbers don't change. So, okay, here we go. You guys ready? So I'm going to start kind of slow and easy, so follow along. So the first thing I'm going to say is if A1 is less than 60. So if A1 is less than 60, then I want the word low to appear. Does that make sense? Right? Because you're less than 60? Cool. And so this next part, I need something. Okay, I'm going to just put in XXXXX just to begin with. Okay, just so, okay? So, now I've got that. Now I want to go inside this if statement and put another if statement. An if statement inside an if statement. Whew. Okay, so here we go. Instead of this is where my second if statement would be. So it'd be if, and it's still A1, you know, that the A1 part doesn't change, except now it's going to be less than 120. And now it would be normal. Then a comma, and then another if statement. So it's if statement inside an if statement inside an if statement. I'm going to put XXX in here just one more time, just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to grab this and drag it down and see if it worked so far. Like, okay, I got my normals and my lows. Cool, so far it's working. All right, let's go back to here. I'm going to change the XXX and we're going to put the next one in the step. If A1 is less than 170, then that would be high. And I'm going to put XXXXX in here one more time. All right, let's make sure this works. Grab this guy and drag him down. Okay, so far so good. Now let's go here and let's add the fourth if statement. Oh, I don't actually have a fourth if statement, because XXX now means everything else. So I don't have to have 4 if statements when I have 4 values in a range. I can get away with 3. All right, so here we go. So now I can just say, what is everything else? Well, everything else is going to be very high. So I just change this to very high. Okay, now let's try it one more time and drag this thing down. Okay, whew. That's a whirlwind tour of nested if statements. The most complicated part. Let's talk philosophy for a minute, because I don't want you guys to get too bogged down in the mechanics of this. So here's how you do what I call a range problem. It's called a contiguous range problem. Okay, where you have zones. You have to pick one end to work with. I pick the low end, okay? Just for no particular reason. So I pick the low end, and then I'm going through and asking questions. In theory, now this one probably doesn't make that much. Remember how I show you how it short circuit? It'll run this one, but if it's true, it won't even run the others. So let's say, for example, you expected that most people are going to have very high. Let's say that most people are going to have in the range of 200. This would not be very efficient, because it has to go through and say, nope, not that one, nope, not that, nope, not that one. Okay, got it. So if you have an opportunity to actually know a little bit about the data and say, you know, I bet most of them are going to be on this end, well, that's the end you ought to start with. Now, in this particular case, I'm not suggesting that I know in advance, you know, what end would be the most appropriate. I'm just telling you. So, for example, if this was grading, and I had like 0 to 100, What do you think that most people are going to be? Most people are going to be close to the 0 or close to the 100. Well, you know, you get an F if you get below 60, and so that's clearly on that side of the scale, right? So you probably got to start at the big end in a number scheme like that. Okay. Whew. So start with the if on your chosen end, and then you know, you do your comparisons. Again, you know, just start one end. It works for the other. You can't jump around because these things, remember how they short circuit each other. If this one is true, it won't even look for the next one. So I could not test for low and then high and then come back to get normal. That wouldn't work. You have to do them in the right order, either left to right or right to left, whichever way you decide to go. But you have to stick with that order. Okay. So one more time, if there are 4 outcomes, okay, 4 outcomes, I probably just need 3 if statements in my nest. Let's look at them. So there's if statement number 1, number 2, and number 3. And the reason why is because the 4th one really is the everything else option. And I don't need an if statement that says everything else. If everything else just means exactly that, it's everything else. Okay. There is a limit, by the way, in Microsoft Excel. You can have no more than 64 of these things in a nest, but that number is so big, I can't imagine you'd ever have that many nested if statements. The thing that drives me crazy, and the reason why I put the little XXX's in there, is because if I was to type this thing all in one line, okay, I'm going to go down to here, and we're going to do this without stopping. I'm just going to type, okay? So here we go. So I say if A1, you know, less than 60, you know, low, if A1 less than 120, you know, norm, yeah, if A1 less than 170, high, whatever, that's close enough. So, and then very high. Now, when I get to here, how many closing parentheses am I going to need? Whew. Well, the machine does actually highlight them, believe it or not. You might be able to tell, maybe, that this parentheses right here is in purple, okay? To kind of let you know. So that means I close that one off, and now I need another one. And now I need another one. And counting those parentheses is kind of tough. That's why I kind of test them out as I go along. You know, I just put junk in there and then come back and add another if statement. That way I don't have, because otherwise this thing could get very, very long and very, very confusing, and I just prefer to break it up into manageable chunks. Okay. Now that was a contiguous range issue. All right, let's do another range issue that's not contiguous. Okay. So here's one where I want to know, are you between the age of, I don't know, 18 and 25? Okay? That's what I want to know. So let's do another one of these things. I'm going to have to do some, rather than use a random thing, I'm just going to start typing in some numbers just because it's just easier for me. Okay, so 42, 22, 21, 18, and 6. Okay, cool. Now what I want to know is, are you between 12 and 20, well, what did it doesn't matter what I said. 18 and 25. Okay. Are you between 18 and 25 inclusive? Okay. So how would you do that? What kind of if statement would you have to have? I can't do this. I can't just do a single, you know, trap like that. I'm going to have to say like this and. See how I said and? Okay. So I need a conjunction function in order to pull that off. Okay. So are you inside a range, like what we're talking about, or perhaps I want to know if you're outside of a range. In this case, it's inside of a range. Okay, so what I want to know is if greater than or equal to, I'm using equal to 18, and at the same time you're less than or equal to 25. Okay, now when you say it out loud, it kind of sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, greater than or equal to 18 and less than or equal to 25. That's the test that I want to do. So my if statement is a little weird. So if I was to start with just, like before, we prototyped it before. So if I said if, and then I want to do, D1 is greater than or equal to 18. And what I'd love to be able to do is like type the word and here, and then just keep going. Like D1 less than or equal to 25. Okay, that's not gonna work, okay? I wish it did, but that ain't gonna work. Because this is not a verb, it's a function. So I need to put a function in here. So I'm gonna go right here and type the word and. Actually, why don't I just start over? I don't want to confuse you. So and. So you put if and then immediately followed by an and then you put the two things in there. So that would be D1 greater than or equal to 18, comma, D1 less than or equal to 25. Okay, so that anded them together. So then you're going to say inside the range and then outside the range. There's no nesting here, by the way. Okay, so there's only one if statement here. Okay. Ha! I typed that whole thing without doing an equal sign. Dummy. Okay, cool. So I'm going to grab this and drive this down. Ding. Okay, one more time. So it's still a single if statement. It's not nested. The thing that's kind of sort of nested is this and statement. And. Now let's say I wanted something that was a little different. And this time I want to know if you're outside that range. Are you in the range? Are you outside the range? So how would that look? It'd be something like if less than 18 or greater than 25. See how I said that in English, right? Well, that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go here and say if D1, I'm sorry, let's start over. If, then I'm going to use an or statement, D1 less than 18, comma, D1 greater than 25, comma, and I'm going to say, if this is true, then you're outside the range, correct? Okay, so this is outside. And this is inside. What did I miss? Oh, I missed a closing parentheses. Right there. Cool. And it should give you the same results here. Cool. Alright, so see how I did this? I took these English statements and converted them. So here's the one with the and. So it's if and then an and statement. And here it's if and then an or statement. Okay? Kind of cool. Alright. There's a section here talking about truth tables and how to make this thing work. And so I'm going to go back to this little sheet. Here's how it works. An or essentially means if any part of it is true, then you're okay. So if the A part is true, you're golden. If the B part is true, that's just icing on the cake, but doesn't change anything. If the A part is true, doesn't matter what the B part is. If the B part is true, doesn't matter what the A part is. So the only way you're going to fail is if both parts are false. So an or typically makes things bigger. When you or things together, they kind of get bigger and bigger, and more ors you throw on, the bigger and bigger it gets. That's the opposite of an and. An and, both parts have to be true. So it doesn't matter if half of it is true or the other half is true. The only way it works is if both halves are true. So ands tend to make things smaller. You throw another and on, it's going to get smaller. Throw another and on, it gets even smaller. Okay, this is probably a good place to start for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.